All right, everybody. So the supplies are going to be similar. Paper, obviously something to paint, mix colors with. Your waters, a dirty and a clean towel. Now the colors we're going to use today, and this is what we're going to be painting today. So we're going to need a red and a blue so that we can get our purple. All right, so I have a red here and a blue. And the red that I'm using is a scarlet red. If you have this one, that's the one to go with. However, if you have a different red, you can use that as well. Anyway, as long as you have a red and a blue, you can mix a purple, so that'll be fine. And I'm going to use a green. So the green that we're going to use is a Viridian. And again, if you don't have Viridian, you can use a different green. And for the background, and I'm going to be mixing some yellow with the green as well for the plants, I'm using a lemon yellow. Those are the colors that we'll be using today. All right, so today is flower day. So we're going to be painting this right here. Now, for the sake of time, we're going to be using half the paper for our painting. All right, so it'll be about half. And then we're going to use the top half for some exercises. Okay, so take your piece of paper right over here. I'm going to do my best to guess where my halfway mark is. So halfway is right here. So I'm going to place a dot right over here. And then I'm going to draw a straight line across. So I'm basically dividing my paper in half. See that? So it's going to look something like, well, it's going to look something like this. And mine's not exactly in half, and that's fine. I'm going to use the smaller side. So this one would be the smaller side. That'll be for my practice. Okay, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and take out our pencils. So we're going to do some practice. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to draw like a ovally shape. So something like this. So it's not a perfect circle. It's more like an egg shape. So something like this. See that? Okay, so it's a bit like an egg shape. And then I'm going to draw a line down the middle. So it's my center line, right? So this is a line right down the middle. And then let's say about maybe about this high, I'm going to place a dot. See that dot right there? All right, and then when I have the dot, I'm going to draw my first petal, which is going to be another kind of circle-y shape. That's kind of like an oval. So it's going to do something like this. See that? Okay, so that's my first petal. And then when you have that done, you're going to draw another petal, this time going like this, something like this. So I'm using that larger ovally shape as a guide to draw my petal on the side. See that? And then I'm going to do the same for the other side. So it's going to be another petal-y shape on the other side. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to draw the petals behind it. And the petals behind this flower is just basically like, it's basically like this shape right here. So basically this shape, I'm just going to add on the right behind those petals. I mean, they're almost like smiley faces, but upside down. All right, and then that's basically a petal, or that's like a tulip. Okay, let's do one more, but this time we're gonna maybe tilt it. So I'm gonna draw an ovally shape, but it's like an egg, but I'm gonna actually tilt it to the side. So imagine an egg that's kind of like tilted. So it's gonna look something like this. And then I'm gonna add a center line right through the middle. So you can get something like this. And when you have that done, go ahead and place a dot somewhere along the top. So I'm gonna place my dot right over here. See that little distance? And then I'm gonna draw another ovally shape for the front petal. So here's another front petal here. And then I'm going to draw some along the side. So along here. And let's do another one on the bottom side along here. All right, and once that's done, let's add the 2 petals from behind. And again, these shapes on behind, they're just going to be like a, kind of like this shape right here, kind of like a frowny shape. And then complete that with another frowny shape. So now basically you've made a petal, but now the petal is kind of like off to the side. Okay, now when you're done, let's add a stem to it. So for the stem, I'm going to draw one curved line going this way, like this. And then depending on how thick you want your stem to be, we can draw another curved line going like that. And then I'll do the same for the one on the top. 1 and 2. Okay, now of course, what's the tulip without the 2 leaves on the side? And you can draw a leaf in a lot of different ways. So on this petal here, I'm going to draw a leaf. So on the outside is going to be a curve. Then on the inside is going to be this shape here. And it kind of looks like a hook shape. And that'll be 1, 2, and number 3. Like that. Okay, let's do that for the one down on the bottom. All right, I'm going to add a leaf here. And then let's go 1, 2, and 3. And just for good measure, I'll add one last one over here. And then let's go 1, 2, and 3. All right, so at this point, you guys should be pretty good at drawing these flowers. Okay, so this was our practice page. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw that same flower, but over here. All right. So you can draw a straight flower like we have here, right? It could be straight, or if you want to give it a little bit of a bend, that works too. All right. So let's draw a flower right over on this end here. Center line. So this is going to be a line to help me draw. So it's going to be my center line right here. And then from there, I'm going to draw my little ovally shape. So it's like a circle, but not quite. It's actually more like an egg. So right over here, actually it's a bit like a pear, right? So this is like a little pear shape. And just like we did in our practice, I'm going to place the dot right over here near the top, maybe about 3/4. And then from here, let's draw another petal shape that's like an ovally shape. So something like this, like that. And then of course, I'm going to add more petals on the side. So here's one side right here. So I'm going to add a petal to the side and then a petal on the other side like this. All right, and once you have that, let's go ahead and add our frowny shape over on the opposite end like this. So here's my frowny shape. And then another frowny shape on the opposite end like this. Almost looks like a McDonald's shape when you combine it. I'm going to add a stem. So I'm going to add 2 lines here, 1 line, and then the opposite line here. So it's going to be a very long stem. And then finally, let's go ahead and add our leaves. All right, so curve on one side, that's the outside curve is going to be really simple, like this. And then let's draw that hook shape, 3 of them, 1, 2, and number 3. In fact, I'm going to draw this leaf all the way out. This is a super long flower. All right, and then I'm going to do that on the opposite end. All right, normally we start with the tulip, but I'm going to start with the background first, okay? Because I think that's actually pretty easy to do. So go ahead and take out your yellow, right? So this is quite a bit of yellow here. Now the trick to doing the background is to use your bigger brush. So this is my bigger brush right here. And I'm going to use a bit of water. So I'm putting my brush in my water to wet it, and I'm just going to dab it a little bit and go ahead and start mixing that yellow. And then I'm going to add some water to that yellow to kind of make it spread out a little more. And then once you have that, just go ahead and just paint that background with that yellow. It's going to be a pretty bright yellow. Now, if you're having trouble with so if you go up to around here where all the petals are, if you're having trouble kind of painting that area, you can go to a smaller brush and just kind of paint those tougher areas that are a little more nuanced. And then when you're comfortable, then you can go back to your larger brush. And the nice thing about painting the background first is when you paint the flower, you're basically going to be painting over that background and some along the edge. So that kind of helps with your painting as well. All right, so I'm gonna take my green. So the green I'm using is the Viridian. Now you can use a different green if you don't have this specific green, that's fine. And so here's my green right here. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to that green. So here's my green, and notice I'm mixing that into the yellow a little bit. It helps to make this green feel like it's in harmony with the background. Like if you want green to feel like it's the friend of yellow, you need to add a little bit of yellow to the green. And what that does is that it creates a little bit of what we call harmony. So you can think of harmony as friendship. When colors are kind of in friendship with each other, they tend to look better. And you can achieve that by adding a little bit of that other color into the green. So here's my green right here. I'm gonna go ahead and paint out that plant part right there. Now there's gonna be certain angles that it's gonna be hard for my hand. So what I'll do is I'll take my painting and I'll actually rotate that over. Let's some stuff here. So I'm gonna rotate this painting this way because it's easy for me to make this stroke like this. See that? So it's easy for me to make a stroke like this. So if you find that there's a part of the painting that's hard to kind of paint because your hand or your arm can't make that motion, then rotate your paper. Okay, so that's good on one side. And actually, when I think about it, these plants, the green part is actually pretty easy to paint if you rotate your page to where it's easy for your arm to kind of create that stroke from left to right. Okay, so kind of ends up looking something like this. Now the stem is going to be harder to paint if you're going up and down. So I'm going to rotate my page again. Now I'm right-handed, so it's easy for me to go from left to right. So that's how I'm going to paint my stem. I'm basically going to go from left to right. And notice when you paint the stem, right, you're basically going to paint over some of that yellow that you had before. And that works, and that's totally fine. In fact, I think that actually makes it look more interesting. Let me show you up close. All right, so there's areas where I've kind of painted over that white, like around right over here. When that green goes over that some of that yellow, that green changes a little bit because the green is kind of transparent. So it kind of creates another nuance in color as it goes over those yellow parts. And I think that's kind of will make the painting more interesting. And the petal is going to be a little more tricky because it's going to involve more mixing and more colors. So for the petals, I'm going to squeeze out some blue because we want to make purple, right? And red and blue make purple. So here's my blue here and here's my red. In fact, I should probably squeeze out a little more. So here's some blue and here's some red. And I squeezed some white ahead of time. So on this corner right over here where my finger is pointing, that's my white. Okay, and I'm gonna paint this over on this part here, kind of my practice petal. So the first thing I'm gonna do is mix some of that blue and mix some of that red so I can get my purple, right? And notice how dark it's getting, right? So it's pretty dark when you mix those two colors together. And of course, let's add a little bit of water to it. In fact, let me add more red. Okay, so this is my purplish color. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add that to the edge. So this is gonna go along the edge, like right here. Like this. All right, so here and here. So the ends of the petal are gonna be a little bit dark. And then I'm gonna add some white to it. So when I add white, I'm also gonna add some blue and red until I get something that looks kind of purplish, all right? And then I'm going to, in a kind of circular motion, so let's go circular on this. All right, now I'm gonna do the same thing, except I'm gonna go a little bit lighter. So notice in my palette, it's getting lighter. And then as it gets lighter, I'll try to add a little bit of red to bring up that color again. Then I'm gonna go back here and I'm going to, in a circly motion, I'm gonna just kind of paint. So your tulip or your flower should be a little bit lighter in the middle than it is on the side. All right, so it should look something more like this. Okay, so you can, so it's a little tricky. You can do that a couple of times with the practice petals. I'm gonna go ahead and do that for my painting. So let's do this side here. So I'm gonna add my dark part on the outside. See that? And then as I go in, it's gonna get lighter. For the tulips that are in the back, I'm just gonna make them a lighter color. So they're just basically gonna be a light purple on the back. Okay.
Now, if you like that video, make sure you hit the like button to help us grow the YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button to make sure that you get notified for future videos. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.